Okay, hello, welcome everyone. My name is Tina Rose. I am the coordinator of career services at Penn State School. We're going to get started here. This is our second basically virtual career week. It's a webinar. If you were lucky enough to attend Nicole Darling's webinar yesterday on gig experiences, you were lucky. If not, we do have a recording of that. And I just wanted to remind you that this information session is also going to be recorded. So if you have to leave early, or if you know someone who would like a copy of it, please let us know. If, as we're going through this, you have any questions at all, please feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat, and we will have time at the end to hopefully delve into those questions. So this whole virtual career week was started basically with a collaboration with myself, Tina Rose, and Nicole Darling, who is our Eastern Region Employer Engagement and Career Specialist, who we heard speak yesterday. And then we also have John Tobin, who is unfortunately not here today, who is the career coordinator at Penn State School. He will be sharing some information on virtual interviewing tomorrow. So if you can participate in that tomorrow, that would be great. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to stop sharing my face, and I'm going to go right into sharing my screen. Hopefully you guys can see this. I was having some technical difficulties a little bit earlier, so hopefully we're going to be okay. Okay. So this is an important topic. So what do I do if my internship is canceled? It's a very hot topic, to say the least, right? Students, all of you, it looks like, looking at the poll, that most of you are students. It looks like there might be some faculty and staff that are joining us today as well. But you all went to spring break, and then once COVID-19 took a hold of our country, schools were temporarily closed. We were told we were going to come back on this date, then we were going to come back on this date. People were working remotely, and then school shut down. Quarantine happened. We were all mostly working from home, and it was like, what do I do now? Because then not only were you personally affected in a variety of ways, you know, some students were displaced, you couldn't travel home, some students returned to situations that weren't good to begin with. So not only were you facing these personal crises, but then you had situations where graduates were having jobs that were basically put on hold or maybe even terminated because of the situation going on with COVID. And then you have the situation with internships. So many students had internships, especially for the summer, that were canceled, obviously due to social distancing. And a lot of those internships were either put on hold or canceled, depending on the industry that you were going into. So students that were going maybe into retail, so I'll give an example of Kohl's, they obviously had to come up with some adjustments with their internships and either do a delayed, so rather than starting on June 1st, they might have started June 20th, or they moved them to virtual or remote. So then, I'm going to go to this next slide. 14, that's a staggering number, 14 million college students were affected by this. 22% of employers revoked summer internships, and internships returned to remote or virtual. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that is. And more than 52% of internships have been canceled. Now that statistic was a couple weeks ago, and I'm just going to kind of step out on a limb and say that that percentage is probably a little bit higher, but it's somewhere in the 50 to 60% range. Okay, so I'm going to try and show you all this little video here. Let's hope it works. It's not working. Let me try it this way. Try it a different way.
Well, Renee, this pandemic has really affected all of us in some way, and especially for those college students who usually during this time, they are getting those valuable internships and that experience that they need to step into the workforce. For more on this, we bring in our Savannah Louie and how they're really scrambling right now, Savannah, because these internships are getting canceled.
Allie, it's pretty unfortunate. It won't matter how good your grades are or how hard you study, because all across the country, college internships are being canceled because of the coronavirus. About 1 in 4 employers are currently evaluating their internship programs. That's according to the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And many internship programs have already been canceled completely. Most college students graduate with an internship. About 95% of employers say previous experience is a factor when they're hiring. Now these students are scrambling and just reapplying to the few programs still open, and they're competing with a larger pool of applicants. I spoke with a junior at Mizzou who is from St. Louis. He learned last week that his internship was canceled, and he tells me he's been up since 2 a.m. all last week just applying to anything he can find. Because for him and so many others, losing an internship is about more than just losing a learning experience.
Some majors require internship in order to graduate. So if internships gets canceled this summer, I don't know how they're going to graduate. If it comes
Line if they're able to, but for now we'll have to wait and see where that goes. I'll send it back to you in studio.
All right, thank you, sir.
Okay, hopefully you all can hear me. I saw that there might have been some issues with my screen sharing, not really sure, or the video itself. Sorry, you guys, I got to go to a new share. It's not letting me go to a new share for my PowerPoint, back to my PowerPoint. Okay, are we good? Can we see? I hope. Okay, all right, we're all good. All right, so what I want to tell you, because this is a scary situation for some students, it's very unnerving. And the first thing I want to tell you is don't take it personally. This situation was completely out of your control. Your internship was canceled because of a pandemic. It's not like you did something wrong where you showed up late on the first day and your internship was canceled. It's one thing to be upset. It's one thing to be questioning what's going to happen, but don't blame yourself. But how you choose to proceed and what you choose to do with your time during this pandemic is within your control. So the numbers aren't great as far as the internship. Statistics are not good, which you just saw before in the previous slide, but this is a opportunity for you to create and rebrand yourself and to create different opportunities that are available to you because of this entire situation. You can totally kick butt, and this is an opportunity for personal and professional growth. So these are just some kind of minor things that you can do. I'm going to talk a little bit more about creative career type things that you can do in regards to your internship or networking, etc. But these are some things that I just wanted to comment on. So when I say keep in touch, so let's say you're one of those students who got the call that your internship was canceled, or it's going to go remote, or maybe it's not going to happen at all, or if it's going to happen in the fall, or they're just still trying to figure out what the heck they're going to do, which is a very common issue right now. It's to connect with the supervisor that you had that internship with. Connect with that company. Ask them if there's anything that you can do remotely. Maybe they haven't even considered it. Or maybe if you could come up with something collaboratively, it would be easier on the employer, because a lot of them are scrambling. Okay, we know. We were all scrambling and they're still scrambling. Maybe you could talk to them about possibly doing some sort of online job shadowing to kind of get to know the industry, get to know the company, or maybe even just get to know the individual who could become mentor to you. It can't hurt to ask. Having the discussion is unique and it's creative, and it might be something to put you ahead of others. Curiosity, informational interviews. You guys all know what these are. You go to a career fair and you ask questions of the employer or the recruiter, etc. Ask for advice, feedback, questions. Ask someone for industry insight. This could be friends, this could be family, this could be friends of family that you can connect with, and ask them questions about what they think that you should do. Get that feedback, get that advice. The other thing is begin to research the companies, again, like I stated before. Read their blogs, look at their social media platforms, really get to know the company and the people that you are supposedly going to be doing that internship with. It's very important to stay informed and current on those industry trends. It is extremely beneficial for you to reach out to people and ask them questions. Listen, everyone who loves their job, and not everyone loves their job, but most people who love their job and that are passionate about it, if you are a student and you reach out to them, whether it's through social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, or even on a phone or email, they are going to want to talk to you. So reach out to them, get some advice. The other thing is pick a new passion project. So a lot of us might be sitting at home. Maybe you're spending too much time on Netflix, or you're texting too much or playing video games. What about, hey, I'm going to learn how to play the piano, or I'm going to pick up a new language. Those of you who are going to be job searching or are currently job searching know how important it is to be fluent in another language. It definitely sets you up ahead of other candidates. Maybe you take up writing, photography. So this could be like a pick a new passion, and it's something that you can add to your resume. Increase your skills, learning a new skill. Again, those of you who have a LinkedIn profile, there is a section on LinkedIn that's called LinkedIn Learning. This is free learning for you that you can go in and click on. And there are such a variety of topics, from informational interviewing, how to create your own brand, how to answer the question, tell me about yourself, how to market yourself, how to create your LinkedIn profile. There are just so many learning opportunities out there. Pick up a new technology. Maybe you've never heard of Microsoft Office Teams. Maybe you've never utilized Zoom that much, or maybe you know how to connect to a Zoom. You saw my technical difficulties. So that was something that I did, is try to learn some new technology to make myself more marketable, or just to learn so I can relate better to people. Take an online class. Classes everywhere across the country, they're often offering reduced rates. So maybe there's something that's always interested you, but you didn't have the time, and now we have the time. So you could add that to your resume as far as taking a course. And research a topic that interests you. You know, a lot of times we're always like, oh, I haven't had time to do that, or I never had time to start a blog, or, you know, well, now you have the time, and it's just something that you can talk about when you go into an interview, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. Maybe you could do some volunteer work. Now, I know that this is kind of maybe a poor time to do that, but nonprofits are looking for students to help them with small projects and to do some volunteer work. I just last week got an email from the Red Cross, because I do some community service on campus, looking for students in a variety of different ways to help out in a sense of volunteering. And again, it could be a small project that you could add to your resume in place of that internship, or even the volunteer work itself in general can be added to your resume. Personal branding. This is really important. So I just mentioned the question, tell me about yourself. This is such a hard question for anyone. Even as you get older and you've interviewed 15 billion times, it's always so hard to answer. Do I say this? Is this too much? Is this too little? But now's the time to kind of think about that question. You definitely have the time. And how did you spend your time during the pandemic? And how you adapted to this situation. We've been on a lot of webinars the last couple of weeks talking to employers about, you know, how they're adapting and what they're doing with internships, job opportunities, et cetera, all these kinds of things. Everyone, it's all a learning curve. And one of the questions that they said that they're going to ask students is, what did you do during the pandemic? Did you just sit in your room and watch TV? Or did you start taking advantage of opportunities that are available to you that you were unaware of at the time? Okay, we're going to go to that next slide. So what is an online internship? Most of you are probably aware of it, kind of makes sense, online internship. But they can be good, they can be bad. There are some pros and cons to everything, but they're basically internships that are done online or remotely, and they're done at any time of the year, any time of the day. You can work globally. So let's say you're interested in working in DC, in the political area. Well, you're in Pennsylvania. But if you look up virtual internships, sometimes you can find, and actually federal, there are a lot of virtual federal internships right now. So you can take advantage of these opportunities that you might not have had before. During these online internships, you have regular contact with your supervisor and your team. I can speak for myself in the sense that I do meet with my supervisor regularly, every other week. We have team meetings weekly. So even though it's not in person, and those of us who are in person, extroverted people, we do enjoy that. It's still a way to connect and keep in touch and to support everyone and collaborate, etc. This internet literacy is extremely important, and it's a skill that you develop when you're doing that online internship. You develop, obviously, your technological skills. You learn about copyright, plagiarism. You learn about social responsibility and accessing information that's on the internet. You learn basically how to act appropriately on social networks. And this is also digital literacy, skills, knowledge that help you safely navigate a variety of technology. Companies are looking for students who have this digital literacy or internet literacy skill. This is obviously an excellent resume booster, and there's no travel. I do know people who have remote full-time jobs, and they do travel maybe outside of the country or into another state. Obviously, that is not happening now, but it's not often, usually, and it's within their own times. Again, it's flexible. And then again, it also gives you that familiarity, which I just spoke about a little bit, about digital tools, high-tech work. You become familiar with a lot of different platforms and how to basically get information faster with technology. Okay, some of the skills that are gained with an online internship. Definitely time management. So we have time management, motivation, making connections, communication, and definitely organization. And I'll think about it. Time management. Your time is your time. You're accountable. There's no one really checking in on you. You might have that weekly supervisor call, or maybe you're meeting with your team, but your time is your time and you're held accountable. So you definitely create time management skills within a virtual internship. Motivation. You have to limit your distractions. There's dishes in the sink for, like, when I'm working at home, I have to learn to say, you know what, the dishes can wait. I have to work on this project, or I need to make this phone call, or I need to follow up with so-and-so. So you do have to have a little bit of that motivation, that organization that comes from working in a remote internship. Connections, you definitely make connections because you have to force yourself in a different way to connect with people. And this is a skill that you all are going to benefit from. You can call people, you can email people. Now you have to reach out through social media. So again, it's going back to that digital literacy, increasing those tech skills. These are all skills that are going to be gained by all of you who complete these virtual internships. And then that communication. We're learning a totally different way to communicate. And for some of us, it's easier, and for some of us, it's not so easy. But it's pushing us outside that comfort zone, and again, increasing those skills. So I brought this up because I have had some students, and I actually have some friends who have students who are in college, and I also have a daughter in college. And what do you do if an in-person internship is required? Now, if anybody at the end of this, we can come back to this and discuss it, because I tried to do a little bit of research on this, and unfortunately, from what I hear, these types of internships are indefinitely postponed until class or clinical settings are deemed safe, obviously with the current situation. Teaching, nursing, counseling, those all require in-person practicums, and they're required by professional accrediting associations. That's a mouthful. So professional associations are currently trying to review and come up with a different approach to this situation, but as far as I know right now, and again, we can bring this up at the end, those are extenuating circumstances, and we just kind of have to see what happens. So here's where I want to talk about what you can be doing to maximize your career development during this time of COVID. So updating your resume. You all might say, I have a resume, but your resume is your first introduction and key opportunity to convince employers that they want you. They want to interview you. Okay? So make sure that you have those key words in your resume. Have someone review your resume. Remember, I've been talking a lot about this with my students, is the whole AI, the artificial intelligence that is going through and reviewing your resumes. A lot of times there's not a real person that's reviewing your resume. So if those key words are not on that resume, you're going to get overlooked and someone else is going to get that interview or that job. So you definitely want to make sure that you have all of your accomplishments, your skills listed on your resume so that you stand out and you're a top candidate. Clean up your social media. So many employers, even though they say they don't check, they check your online presence to learn more about you. This also is definitely more prevalent right now with this whole COVID-19 because employers have limited access to you in person. So what I suggest to students is Google yourself and see what comes up. I heard an employer state, but I thought it was a kind of a neat way to say it, is to check your shadow. See what is following you as you are applying for jobs and internships. Is there a picture out there that's inappropriate? Do you have things posted on your social media that don't look so nice if an employer goes in there and looks at it? So you want to make sure that the shadow that's following you is the person that you're presenting on that resume and the person you're presenting in interviews. Building new skills. We kind of talked about this a little bit before. Use your extra time to build new skills that can get you ahead in your career. Again, a new technological skill. Study a foreign language, read a book, listen to a podcast, and make sure that they're related to your industry. Utilize LinkedIn Learning. I can't stress that enough. And there's so many other online resources that are free. Practicing your virtual interviewing. Now, I'm not going to go into depth with this because John is going to discuss this tomorrow. But many companies have changed their recruiting strategies to reduce or eliminate in-person interactions because we have to at this point. So they are going into this virtual interviewing, which is Zoom. Some are using Microsoft Office Teams. So you have to be prepared for this type of interview. So if you're getting an interview or you're looking for it, definitely pay attention, and we're going to go into more detail tomorrow with John. Cultivate your professional network. Social distancing doesn't mean that you have to put networking on hold. In fact, I really feel that this is like an optimal time to cultivate professional relationships. People who have extra time, people are working remotely, and not to say that people are not busy because they are, but they do have a little bit of time that they might be able to spend with you, talking to you, which is what I stated before. Reach out to people, ask them questions, get their feedback, ask them what the new trends are in your field so that you can work on those things while you're at home during this time. Employers are reaching out to students, whether it's on Nittany Lion Careers, LinkedIn. They are reaching out because that is the way they are trying to connect with students at the current time. So that being said, you need to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to date and has those keywords. Again, going back to that AI. So the other thing is connecting with alumni in this whole networking piece. We have the largest alumni network in the world, and they are so helpful, and they want to help you. They want to answer your questions. So utilizing LionLink is an awesome resource for you as well. And then going into that, we have these virtual career fairs. These are popping up everywhere. Employers have to keep that pipeline open. This is a temporary situation. So it's not like jobs and companies are just shutting down. I mean, we have situations like JCPenney, Victoria's Secret, obviously Pier 1, things like that are happening. But companies are transitioning. A lot of them are making that transition to these virtual internships or remote working from home. And they have to remember that this is temporary. So they have to keep that pipeline open. So pay attention to these virtual career fairs and take advantage of them as well. And then I can't stress enough about contacting career services. So we are here to help you. We're not closed. We might be working remotely, but I have Zoom appointments with my students. If I get any information about a company that's hiring or interviewing or an internship, I'm connecting with my students. We are here to really support you. Virtual career fairs, workshops, digital networking, all these types of opportunities are posted on your individual Career Center websites. So again, take advantage of the guidance and the current situation and use it to your advantage. So these are sort of some creative adaptations that some campuses are taking, employers, faculty, experiential learning, summer projects. So for example, I mentioned doing service in the summer. So you could do service or community-based learning where you work directly with a member of your community and maybe you identify like a real world situation or an issue and you try to come up with a problem-based solution. So these are kind of adaptations to doing a 6 to 8 week in-person internship. They're ways to help you so that you can continue to build that resume. Working from home is credit. So this was interesting. I saw university, and I want to say it was Rutgers, but I don't want to say it was Rutgers. But they're allowing students who, and more so non-traditional students, who might be working from home full-time or part-time and utilizing their work experience as part of their internship so that it can help them with the credits and the hours. Maybe it's adding some tasks and talking to their employer and saying, okay, so I'm doing X, Y, and Z in my position, and I need to do more project management, et cetera. So they add that to it so that they can get credit through home. Remote or shorter. So a lot of internships, again, are going remote if it's possible and the employer can transition. Or like I stated before, Kohl's, instead of starting June 1st, I think they were starting June 20th, and then they already have the idea that if that date doesn't work, they're actually going to go and extend that. Accepting a certain percent of hours. A lot of colleges and universities are stating, okay, well, rather than accept, maybe your internship is 250 hours, we're going to do 200. Or maybe your internship is 350, we're going to knock it down to 250. So they're trying to come up with unique and creative ways to help students get those hours in. Collaboratively working with employers. This is interesting and it's great. Career counselors definitely need to advocate for students, bridge some gaps. Maybe there's an employer that is willing to do a virtual internship. They're just really not sure what to do or what types of skills to put in that virtual internship to really help you and to make it be robust. So maybe that career counselor can connect with the employer and the student and create something, and then we have a collaborative online experience. Academic projects. So these are situations or projects that are created with the faculty member. So again, it could be like a problem or a case-based learning project that requires students to complete background research, maybe on an issue. They might have to interview experts and then prepare a report that provides a solution to the problem. So very similar to that experiential learning summer project. But the students and the career counselor should basically work together with faculty and employers to create these unique experiences. And then lastly, we have, I mentioned earlier, Nicole gave an excellent presentation on gig experiences. So this is a short-term project. They're usually 15 to 20 hours. And this, again, helps employers create a potential pipeline. And then for students, it helps you explore different options and career paths and boost your resume. And again, it enhances your skill set. So we're going to go into some pros and cons. So some of this I've mentioned. So some benefits to remote and virtual internships. One, right now during the current pandemic, they're safe, right? Very flexible. So for students, this is huge. So maybe you're a student who is actually still working part-time or even full-time. Maybe you're considered essential or your job is, you're able to continue to go to work. So you can do these remote or virtual internships in your own time. You know, I jokingly state my kids, I have 3 teenagers, and they're up until 3 a.m. Their time clock is completely off. So if you're one of those people, you could be doing your internship at 11 o'clock at night. So the hours are flexible. Wherever you're working from is flexible. This also, no travel or housing costs, okay? So it's definitely financially rewarding in that sense. New professional contacts. Basically what that means is by doing this virtual or remote internship, you're definitely going to have to reach out to other people, whether it's through social media, email, contacting them, cold calling. So you're going to make some additional contacts, which is great as far as maybe you meet a mentor, someone that can help you in your career path. Online project management and communications. So planning, teaching, assessing, and executing a project online. Again, you're going to learn different software. You're going to learn additional technical skills. You're scheduling, budget, and again, communications. Increase interpersonal and interpersonal skills is huge. So interpersonal skills, responsibility, leadership, active listening, dependability, patience, teamwork. Those are all interpersonal skills. And then along with that, you have the intrapersonal skills, which are huge. And again, I mentioned it before. These are things like self-awareness, self-discipline, adjusting to your strategy. Like maybe you're working on a project and someone calls you and says, hey, I need to have a Zoom meeting with you. You're handling and dealing with a lot of distractions. So all of these skills combined are huge benefits to you as students to take advantage in this remote or virtual internship. Drawbacks to a remote. So obviously there's that lack of person relationship building, right? So if you're someone who is an extrovert, working from home may not be the easiest thing to do for you. It's funny, when we first went remote, one of my colleagues who is an introvert said this was the best thing that ever happened to her. So for me, I really miss interacting with the students. And even though I can meet with them on Zoom and contact them on the phone, it's just not the same thing. So again, lack of cultural immersion. You're not around people of different ethnicities, backgrounds. So again, you're lacking that in-person, that connection, networking in person with people. There's fewer opportunities to engage in an ad hoc interaction. And what I mean by that is like when you're in the workplace, a lot of times there's impromptu last minute meetings and you get together, you know, you're walking down the hall and someone says, hey, you know, we need to talk about that workshop that we're planning together. We need to do this. So obviously that is something that's lacking in a remote or virtual internship. Those interaction, those impromptu discussions. Obviously there's a lack of job security and there are no benefits. So these are some other things that you can do during this time of COVID. So I put these questions down because they really are self-reflection. So I gave you some things that you can do, some basic things as far as like in the initial stages of, oh my gosh, I lost my internship, as far as, you know, increasing your skills, taking a new passion, learning something new. And then I talked a little bit about what you can do from a professional standpoint as far as virtual interviews, virtual career fairs. And then I'm going to talk to you a little about what you can do personally. So a lot of times when you're in school, you're going to class, you're working, you might be taking care of a family. There are so many extenuating circumstances, and sometimes we get lost. So take this time to think, what is my passion? Maybe you're majoring in business, but you have no idea what you want to do with that business degree. Maybe you're majoring in psychology and you've realized through this pandemic, I don't know if this is really what I want to be doing. So take the opportunity to sit with yourself, gain some insight, figure out what you really want to do, and then figure out how you can distinguish yourself. So maybe it is taking up and learning another language or learning some new technology, and think about those things. Be proactive. Be resilient, adapt, and then I have go out there and kick butt. Because here's the thing. I know that this situation is upsetting. It's sad. It can be heart-wrenching. I think about the seniors. I think about seniors in high school, but then I think that about the people who are dying. So you have to think to yourself, there's a reason for this, and you guys are going to gain something from this. You know, I always say turn lemons into lemonade. You really can. Think about how this can positively affect you as opposed to negative, and be resilient and go out there and kick butt. Any questions? I'm worried that you're going to hear my dog now that I'm not talking.
Hi, Tina, it's Nicole. We don't have any questions in the Q&A yet, but I welcome everybody to, if you do have a question, go ahead and put one in there.
Okay.
A couple of questions that I got before the presentation today that maybe you can answer. Some of them I think you might have touched on a little bit, but one question was, will career services be open during the summer to help them review their resume? So will campuses or career services office be able to help review resumes that want them to sort of update them over the summer?
Absolutely. In my situation, and this is a rare situation, so at Penn State Schuylkill, I am a 10-month employee. So my contract actually ends this week, but we still have 2 people in our office. So we will still be reviewing resumes, so you can email them. As far as I know, every other campus, University Park, we work all year round. So if you need a resume reviewed, cover letter looked at, a personal statement, just reach out to anyone on your campus and career services, and they'll be more than happy to help you.
Great. Another question we had is, do you think that having my internship canceled will hurt my chances of getting hired in the future?
Okay, so you know what? I was going to put a slide on this because I found it interesting. A lot of employers are stating that they think that if you had an internship and it was canceled, to put that on your resume. So it says to put that it was canceled due to COVID because it shows that you had one. And then also what they say to place in that resume underneath where you put that you put the location, what you were going to do, is reach out to that employer and ask them what some of the skill sets would have been that you would have been working on, maybe some of the projects, and you can put that on there because it does, there's some people that say they don't think that's a good idea. I personally think it's a good idea. But just remember that you're in the same boat with so many people and students. But I do think that it's a good idea to put it on there. What is your opinion on that, Nicole?
I think, yeah, it's absolutely, that's what I've been hearing from employers is that it's perfectly acceptable because you did get that internship. You did, get hired for that internship. So you definitely can put that on and put on that it was canceled due to COVID. And then you can also include some of the things that you actually talked about in your presentation today to, keep yourself busy during that time and to better your career with some of the suggestions you gave. I think that's important, that employers are really looking for a really solid answer to what did you do during your time during COVID-19. So those were some really good suggestions because I hear that a lot from employers. This one also, what are some ways I can network with employers during COVID-19? Go ahead, do you have some answers on that? And then I can throw in my...
I forgot I muted myself. So there's a lot of ways you can connect with employees. So you want specifically employers, because I'd mentioned that you can use Lion Link for alumni, which is still can be an employer. Because alumni are just so resourceful and helpful. So that's definitely one way. You can connect with them on Nittany Lion Careers. So if you're not familiar with Nittany Lion Careers, every Penn State student has access to Nittany Lion Careers, so you just need to go in and create a profile. You can upload, your cover letter and resume to Nittany Lion Careers, and then employers can reach out to you. You can also reach out to employers. And then I also love LinkedIn. But with LinkedIn, you definitely want to make sure that you have a rockin' profile. You don't want to go on there and have things missing or misspellings. What I always recommend to my students to do is I have them do their profile and then I have them connect with me. So maybe you can connect with your career counselor, have them look at your profile, go back and forth until it's great, and then you can start reaching out to employers. Maybe you're interested in, I'm just going to throw something out there, like maybe you're interested in Northrop Grumman. You want to work there, engineering, technology. When you're on your LinkedIn profile, you want to make sure you follow those specific companies that you're interested in, because one of the first things that they do when they're recruiting you is they look to see if you're following them, because they post articles and industry trends. So that's a great way to connect with those employers. If you have any other ideas.
Yeah, that's a really great tip, to make sure you're following those companies that you're interested in. I love that. Yeah, I would also say that I think it's certainly acceptable and shows a lot of forethought to reach out to people at companies you're interested in and ask them if they would mind, sending 15 minutes aside to do a quick little informational, interview with them to talk about their job, how they like working at that company. I know, working with different employers and different professionals, they love to share what they do with students, really with anybody. Everybody likes to talk about what they do and share themselves. So, but with students, it's really great because they like to kind of pass that along. And I think everybody wishes they had somebody that they could kind of pick their brain a little bit. So I would definitely add, if there's somebody that you want to reach out to on LinkedIn and send them a message and ask if they have 15 minutes to sort of do a little informational interview with them. I think that's another great way, and you're networking and building, your online presence as well. So you do have a question that came in. It states, I recently applied for the micro internship opportunity with a mentor from the Smeal College of Business. Is that opportunity valid at this moment, as I can get a connection from an alumni and I can get an internship out of it?
So I need kind of clarification. So this individual got the micro internship?
I think she's questioning whether, or he or she is questioning whether or not a micro internship is a valid opportunity and something that would be worthwhile to put on their resume.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We just did, Nicole just did a gig on the gig experience, and then there's the micro internships. The micro internships are great because they're smaller. They're usually project based again, but anything that you can do is going to be helpful on that resume. Even being a teaching assistant, participating in research with a faculty member, anything, any of those situations or experiences are going to be helpful to you. So I would definitely take advantage of that.
Yeah, and I'll just throw in there too, we call them at Penn State gig experiences, but you may hear them refer to other places as micro internships. They're essentially the same thing, so don't get confused by the wording there. And yes, Smeal College of Business has reached out to their alumni to provide some of those gig experiences, as well as College of IST. So you may want to look into that as well. But they're great experiences. They're great if you're working as well. Great to take on during the semester, where you can actually go to class and take your normal load, but still do these small projects that do have you networking with alumni or connections at the organization. But they're smaller chunks. They may be between 5 to 40 hours and could take anywhere from a couple of weeks to a couple of months to complete. So yes, definitely look into that. One more question you have is, this is the answer. Yes, I applied for it. They are considering my application next week. So yes, I would.
Oh, awesome.
Chance to do it. Yeah, absolutely do it. They are, I think, the up and coming new way for employers to engage and try to test drive students to see how well they work with that organization and fit into that culture. So I think definitely helps feed you into their pipeline for internships and full-time hire. Okay.
I think too, just to kind of, everything you said was excellent, but I think the other thing too is some employers really don't have, I don't want to say enough work, but maybe they're just starting out and they really don't have a full-fledged, robust internship program. So it's kind of a way for them to get their feet wet, or maybe they just don't have a ton of stuff for that student to do. So by having a micro or a gig internship is a great way for the employer to kind of build, but then also give the student, give you an experience to put on your resume.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's great for employers just starting out working with students if they don't have that work for an internship. Okay, so you have another question, Tina. What is the one trait or characteristic that you notice in people or candidates that makes them really successful in the hiring process?
For me, I could give a variety of answers. I would say communication. I think that handshake and still being able to look someone in the eye when they're talking to you, and when you're able to answer that question or answer a question in an interview, really goes a long way with almost everybody. And I'm going to say that, the other reason I'm going to say this as well is because in this time of COVID and everything being virtual, when I'm talking here, I have a really hard time. So I taught a class and all the students would pop on and put on their, turn the video off. I had a hard time with that. So we would make them turn them on sometimes because I said, I can't just look at a screen. I need to see your face. I need to see your interactions. So I think communication is definitely, and I would say employers would probably say communication is still in the top 2 of skills.
Yeah. I would say through my experience talking to a lot of employers, really the thing that stands out the most, believe it or not, are your essential skills. We used to call them soft skills, which include communication. So just really being a professional and being able to speak up, speak clearly, having all of those important soft skills is really what makes the difference. It can make the difference between 2 different hires. Somebody who has a lot of knowledge and academic work is great, but if they don't come with those soft skills, the person that does is going to get that job. So that really, I think, from an employer standpoint, is what stands out.
And from an employer standpoint in talking about, segueing, is an employer will say, the soft skills, you have the student with the soft skills and the hard skills. Better soft skills, the student that they're going against might have better hard skills. It is much more difficult to train a student for soft skills as opposed to training the other student to maybe learn Excel, Word, the technological pieces. So I definitely agree with you on the soft skills. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? That's all that I have here. And we'll give people just a minute to ask any others that they might have. Yeah, I think that's it, Tina.
Awesome. You guys were great. If you have any questions, maybe you're afraid to put a question in the chat, please feel free. You can reach out to me. I'm Tina Rose. I don't know if you guys have those career guides, but you can access those career guides from Nittany Lion Careers as well. And all of your contact information for your career service directors, counselors, coordinators is all in that. It's online and they're in the books as well, but feel free to reach out to any of us and we will gladly assist you and get you in the direction that you need to be.
Okay, I think that's it. Thanks so much. Thanks, Tina.
Bye.